Hey there, I'm Ina, Speak Simply Malekish, and this is my channel. And I will be sharing with you about sex, relationship, intimacy, and spirituality, which I absolutely love to do, one bite at a time. And in this November, we are going to be talking about the history of Thanksgiving, which I find fascinating. First of all, let's look at where we're at today, 2020. In the history of our country, other than possibly in the Civil War, we have never experienced what we are going through with the election and with COVID. In the Civil War, family members divided, friends divided. Some went to fight for the Union, the blue, or for the Confederate, the gray. And at the end of it, many of them came back together, knowing how important it was to love each other, no matter their differences. So on Thanksgiving, it's really important that we give thanks. We really could, I don't want to say should be, we could be giving thanks every day of our life. But on this day, we take a special interest in giving thanks for those things that have been given to us and for the bounty and the gifts of friendship, love, food, the beauty of the homes that we live in, or the apartments that we live in, whatever it is. Know that it is a gift and that it's not that you deserve it, you've earned it. You've earned it by what you do, what you say, the kind of job you have, going to school, and all of that is very important. So let's take a look back in history and let's see what the Pilgrims got to experience. So there was 105 pilgrims crossing the Atlantic Ocean, which is not like the Pacific Ocean. The Atlantic is very rough. They were in the old schooner ships, and it took them 66 days to cross, and they landed in the Bay of Massachusetts in 1620. Now, this is not memorized, so you're going to see I'm going to be reading some of this. Now, we would not be celebrating Thanksgiving today at all if it had not been for the Native Americans, because when the Pilgrims got here, the first winter they lived on the Mayflower. And they would not have survived if it had not been for one particular Native American man. Now, what's interesting about this, and I'll apologize if I'm not pronouncing these Native names correctly. I'm going to do my best. His name was Tisquantum, also known as Squanto, a member of the Patue tribe. Tisquanto actually learned English after being kidnapped with others, men and women of his tribe, by an English sea captain, Thomas Hunt, in 1614, and he was sold into slavery into Spain. In time, he was able to make his way back to England and eventually back to Massachusetts in 1619. So this Native American knew how to speak English, and he was the key to the Pilgrim survival. Now, what's interesting is even though he was sold into slavery, and when he returned home, his entire tribe was gone, decimated because of being the diseases that they contracted, having contact with the Europeans. But there's something special about this man. For whatever reason, God, Great Spirit, had him sold into slavery and removed so he did not get the disease, though he was still exposed, and that he made it back to his homeland, that he was the one who forged the alliance between the Pilgrims and a local tribe. Now, that local tribe was Wampanoag. Again, if I'm not pronouncing these correctly, please, I apologize. Now, these Native Americans were very skilled in farming. Now, remember, they lived on a coastal area, so the soil was very poor, but they had learned what they needed to do in order to grow the vegetables, and so they taught the Pilgrims. And the main three vegetables that the Wampanoag grew was corn, squash, and beans, and they are still known today as the Three Sisters. The reason for that is each one of those vegetables, when they're planted, they give something back to the soil that the other vegetable needs. So they work as a team, as three sisters, to enrich that soil that had very little nutrients and really did not hold moisture very well. The other thing which they did was the Wampanoag used wood ash as well as fish as plant fertilizers. Now, I don't know about you, I knew about planting the fish with the corn kernel. I did not know about the wood ash. Sauer from Modern Farmer says that the wood ash would have been a relatively concentrated nutrient source that contains calcium. And that acts as a liming agent to raise the pH level of the soil. Now, this may all be boring to you, but knowing this is how they grew the vegetables and what saved the Pilgrims. And the Native American farmers practiced this and taught the Pilgrims, gave willingly their knowledge to prevent them from starving. Now, November 1621, the Pilgrims and the Native American Wampanoag celebrated with the colonists because it was their very first successful corn harvest. That was 399 years ago. We are celebrating Thanksgiving because of what happened. We are standing on the shoulders of our ancestors. The festivities lasted 3 days and included a bounty from the field and from the sea. They did not have turkey or pumpkin pie because they didn't even have ovens back then, and sugar was in short supply. What they did have a lot of, and I would definitely enjoy this Thanksgiving, was lobster, goose, and venison, though my favorite is elk, to be honest, it's elk. These new crops that the English learned how to plant, and from the original indigenous people, is what allows us today to give thanks. And so many of us do not know the story. I would invite you to take that story and share it during your Thanksgiving, to bring some history to the gathering that we are doing today. And I hope this puts a perspective of the challenges that the Pilgrims and natives had 399 years ago relative to what we are dealing with in 2020, with the elections, with COVID, with not having some of the things that we're used to on a grocery store, with possibly not being able to meet with our families the way we're used to. Some of you will do Zoom or FaceTime. Some will be able to create small family gatherings. What we want to be aware of for this upcoming Thanksgiving is what we are thankful for. And because of not being able to maybe travel, think of that you are saving money. And if you've had a challenging time with losing a job or your business going bankrupt, please do not focus on having the big spread of food that you're used to having, because it's not about that for us. It's not about that kind of food. Introduce a different type of Thanksgiving feast, having everyone bring something, and sharing your love and your giving thanks. One of the things I always do is before the food comes out hot and then gets cold, I like my food hot, is we go around our circle, and I don't know how we'll do that this year. Might have to do it on Zoom or Facebook or in person. And every person actually shares, no matter how young, how old, every person shares something that they are thankful for in their life. It is not just about overeating and falling asleep watching football. Maybe it's going for a walk, being out in nature, connecting to something that brings meaning to this very special day. To be grateful and to give thanks for all that you have, such as warm bed to sleep in, a warm house with central heating, running water, the trucks, the cars, the bicycles, the things that we take for granted. And I would ask all of you this year to also give thanks to the forefathers and foremothers who gave us the Constitution, our Bill of Rights, and especially to those 105 pilgrims who were seeking to start a new life in a new land. I thank you for your time today in watching this. And do me a favor. Would you please like me, leave a comment, share this with other people. And if you would like to contact me personally, you can do that here. I do in-office sessions as well as remote. And thank you for watching today. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving coming up, and blessings to you all.